So this is what we have done in the last class. We will proceed from this point. So we have a window here with a different shape, and let's go ahead with the other part. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a title bar for this. So let me go to the toolbar and I'm going to drag a rectangle. You notice that there is a rectangle here. I will just drag this rectangle. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here. So we have a rectangle. If you want to make it a precise adjustment, you can always do it by using the arrows. So use the arrow keys for making a precise adjustment. So I have just dragged a rectangle into the form, and I'm going to change the color of it just to make it appear differently. So I'm going to just fill it with some other color. And then I'm going to drag a button and I'm going to just place it here. So I have a button. Also, I'm going to drag a text block. So I'm going to drag a text block and I'm going to place it here. Then I'm going to change the title here. So I'll go here and I'm going to change the title and I'm going to call this one as employee details. And then I'm going to go to this button and then change the content of this button as X for closing that button. So if you run this one, this is what it's going to appear. You will have to make some minor adjustment. So this is how it's going to appear. Now when I click on this one, I want the form to be closed. So let's take care of this. I can go to this button and then in the last class you know that how to change it. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to just double click on this button. So I'll just double click on this button. To close this button, I'm going to just use the method which is familiar with you from the Windows form. This dot close, and this is going to close the window. So when the button is clicked, I want it to be closed. So I'm going to just say that this dot close. That's all. So it's going to close it. Now if I run this particular application, you will notice that if I click on this one, the form closes altogether. So you're back. The other thing that you can do with your form is you can make it transparent. So let's go to this form. And you have this form here, this particular polygon that you have created. And if you go to the properties, you have already given the fill color for that in the last class. You can, under this fill color, you notice that it is RGBA. And A is meant for transparency. You can make it transparent. So I'm going to just make it up to this point. So you can make this form transparent. So if you change this one, 0 means fully transparent, 255 means fully opaque, in between I'm keeping it. Now if you run it, you will notice that the form is actually transparent. So you will notice that this form is now transparent. You can see 50% transparency is there. So you can see that the form is transparent. You can make it even transparent. Now this is some things that you can do with the form. Now let's go to the other part, that is serialization. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a tab into the toolbox. So I go here and then drag a tab control from the toolbox. So you notice that you have this tab control, and I'm going to drag this tab control from the toolbox into the form. And I'm going to make it get into the full area, so by dragging it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just dragging this particular tab control. So I have this tab control with me. Now if you want to add one more tab, what you need to do is, currently if you click here, you notice that there is a border. This is for the tab that you have. If you look at this particular place, you have the tab. If you click next to it, you notice that it is selecting the tab control. This is, you have selected the tab. If you click outside, you notice that there is this border that is coming for the tab, and this means you have selected the tab control. If this means you have selected the tab. So I'm selecting the tab control. Once you select the tab control, right click on this place, click here and then right click, and then you get an option to add a new tab. So you get an option to add a tab. So I'm clicking here and then I say add a tab. So you notice that you are able to add a new tab. So this is how easy it is to add a new tab. If you want to change the tab heading here, you can do it using the properties, or the easiest way is you can just go to the XAML here, and in the XAML you will notice that there is this header, the tab item header, and it is saying header 1. So I'm going to say new employee. Similarly, for the second tab, and I'm going to say list employee. So if you run this one, you will notice that there will be two tabs now, and you notice that it is transparent. You can even close that. So let's now start filling all the details into this particular form. So I'm going to go to the new employee, and I need to fill some controls into this new employee. Now in order to represent an employee, I'm going to create a class first. So let's add a class, and then let me add the controls over here. So I will go to the Solution Explorer, and I'm going to add a new class to my project. So I can go here, right click on it, and then say add new class. So I'm going to add a new class. And I'm going to call this as employee. So I'm going to call this class as employee. So I'm just creating an employee class. I will just create a blank class with not too many things inside it. And I'm going to create a few properties. That's all. I won't add any method. So I'm going to create the properties. The first property, employee ID. Next property, as usual, string employee name. Next property, usual thing, string department, string designation, let's say date of join. That's enough, I suppose. Oh, sorry, this is date and time. So date, time, date of join. I think that's enough. That will describe a employee. If you want, you put a salary and all these things. It's not going to make any difference. So I have the employee name, a class with employee name, department, designation, and date of join. That's enough, I think, for a simple example. So once I create this class, once my class is created, I can think of creating the required component. So I need a text box for employee ID, employee name, department designation, and all of them. So let's quickly do that thing. So I'm going to add a text block here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a text block. So I'll select a text block first. And then in front of it, I'm going to drag a text box. The first one is block, second one is the text box. Now I need similar kind of things for the other things. So what I can think of doing is I'm going to click on this one, text block, hold the shift, click on the second one. So click on the first one, hold the shift, and click on the second one. Two are selected, or you can do click and make a selection. So two are selected. Control C to copy it, and Control V to paste it. So once you paste it, it is going to come on top of it. Just drag it down. This is for the employee name. Again, Control V for department, Control V for designation, Control V for date of join. But I think we can go slightly better than this. Let's try to make changes to this. This is going to be, let me put the names for all these text blocks over here. So I will go here to the text block, the first text block, and I will go to the properties, and I'm going to change the property of the first text block. So I'm going to change the text of it. I'm going to make the text as employee ID. Second one, employee name. I'm using shortcut, but it's all right. Department, designation, and date of join. I can think of changing these controls. It's not good to ask somebody to type the department and designation, because there will be a spelling mistake or some capitalization and so on problem will be there. So what I can think of doing is I'm going to remove this text box from the department. So I'll remove this department text box as well as a designation text box. I'm going to replace it with a combo box. So I'll get a combo box for the department and designation. So I will go to the toolbox and I'm going to drag a combo box in those places. So I have this combo box and I'm going to drag that combo box for the department. Control C and Control V. For the designation. So I have the department and designation separate. Finally, I can think of even changing this date of join. I don't want it to be a text box. I want the user to select the date of join. The way in which I can think of doing is I'm going to delete this text box and I'm going to replace it with a date picker. So you have a date picker here. You can replace it with a date picker, which is much easier. So you can think of using date picker. So this is how it's going to look like. I need two buttons. Let's start with the first button, that is save, and I can think of getting the second button later. So I'll go here and I'm going to drag a button and I'm going to just place it at one corner. Now the next thing that we are supposed to do is rename all the controls that we are going to use it. So I will start with the text box here, that is the employee ID text box, the text box in front of it, and I'm going to change the name of this text box as employee ID text box 1. So I'm going to say employee ID text box. So I'm changing it as employee ID text box. Second one, employee name text box. So ename text box. That's the second one. So employee ID text box, employee name text box, department combo box, department combo box, designation combo box, and the last one is date of join date picker. So I'm just giving a name to this, like employee ID, employee name, department, designation, date of join. Also, I have this button here. I will change the button text first. So I'm going to change the button as add. I'm going to change the content of this button as add, and I'm going to call this button as add button. So this is what we have. Now when I click on this add button, I want to save it. That's simple as that, but I want to save it like a XML file. So I want to serialize it like an XML file. So these are nothing much over here. You have all the fields of a employee, and when I click on this thing, I want to save it into the XML document. So let's do that thing. So I'm going to just double click on this add button to fire that event. So just double click on this add button, and I have this add button click event. So just double click on the add button and you have the click event there. So what is that I am supposed to do? I am supposed to create an employee object. So I'm going to say employee emp is equal to new employee. And I'm going to fill all the properties of the employee. So employee.employee ID, remember you're going to get it in the form of a text. It's an integer, so I'm going to say int.parse to convert it into integer. And I will go to the employee ID text box.text. So I'm just converting it into integer. Employee name, m.employee name will be the same thing. So I'm going to say ename text box dot text. Then I have employee dot this department. I will go to the department combo box, and I'm going to get the text which is being selected. Similarly, I'm going to go to the designation, and I'm going to say designation combo box dot text. The last thing that I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to get the m dot date of join. I will go to the date of join date picker, and I'm going to say selected date. I think we have this selected date. The only problem with that selected date is it's a nullable. You see that there is a question mark saying that it's a nullable object. So what you need to do is you need to just typecast it. So I'm going to just say typecast it. It's actually giving typecast it as date time. Because it's a nullable object, it just says that I can't simply assign the value. It could be null. So just typecast it as date time. So this is all done. I have just created an employee object, and I have filled the employee object with the details. Now what is that I am supposed to do is convert this into XML and save it into a file. So that means to say that I am supposed to serialize this data, that is the employee data, into an XML file. So how do I serialize it? Fortunately, the .NET provides you with a lot of utility classes. So let's first get the namespace. So let's look at what is the namespace which you can think of using. So I'm going to just go up here, and I'm going to use a namespace. So I'm going to say using system.xml, because I want to convert it into XML dot serialization. So because I want to serialize it, so I go to XML and then serialization. A lot of classes are available inside it. We are not really interested in all of them. I want only a selected one. So I will use system.xml.serialization for my namespace to get that class. Let's go ahead and let's see how easy it is to serialize it. So I have the employee object here. I will go to the XML serialization, and obviously you can think of a class with the same name. So let's say XML serializer. Say the name is very obvious. That's a class. I'm going to just say X serial equal to new XML serializer. So I'm just where did I get this XML serializer? This is there inside that namespace system.xml.serialization. This class is there inside it. I'm going to create a new instance of it. So when I try to create a new instance of it, it's going to say that I require the type of the object that need to be serialized. So that particular class says I want to know which is the object that need to be serialized. So I'm going to say this is of type. You're already familiar with the type of operators from your previous knowledge of the programming language. It's not a new thing. So I'm going to say I want to serialize a type of employee object. So this is what I'm saying. So I want to serialize a type of employee object. You have to tell the serializer what is the type of object that need to be serialized so that it knows what is it supposed to do it. What's the next thing? Once you tell this serializer what is the type of the object, rest part is very obvious. You say XML serializer and serialize. Now when you call this serialize method, it's going to say that I want the name of the stream, or I want a file stream so that I can write to a file. So I want that file stream. So you are supposed to provide me with the file stream, and if you provide me with the file stream, tell me the object that needs to be written. So in my case, the object is the employee object. So I'm saying I'm going to give you the file stream. I am not given the file stream, but then the next part is if you have the file stream, or if you have the stream, I will be able to stream. So let's create a file stream. So how do I create a file stream? I'm going to say file stream. Now this is not directly available. When you type file stream, it's not directly available. So I'm going to just type file stream control dot. When you press the control dot, it's going to say that you need to use a namespace. So I'm going to say using system.io. This namespace is required. So I write file stream control dot on it, and you get using system.io. I just press enter. So when I do that, you notice that it has already added system.io as the reference. So I get file stream fs is equal to new file stream. When I create a file stream, it's going to ask me with a lot of questions. So I will go here, and I don't know what is the handler. I don't know the first part, that is the first override, but I know the third option. The third option says if you tell me the name of that is the path of the file, I can think of using. Now the question is where is the path? So that is one problem there. So let's first get the path. So this is not going to work. So let's go above and let's get the file path. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a string path of my file, or let's say my file. So how do I get the path? Now I'm going to store it in the my documents. So I want to store it in my document. So how do I know that where is my document? You are already familiar. So in order to get the my document, there is this environment class. So I will go to this environment, it's a utility class, and I'm going to say get folder path. And then I'm going to say go to this special folder dot my document. So now I am asking the environment get the special folder my document. Now this is going to give me the my document, but it's not going to give me the file name. So I have to add the file name to this one. How do I add it? I can definitely concatenate it, but I'm going to use the other utility class. So what is the other utility class? The other utility class is the combine, path.combine. So I'm going to say the whole thing system dot io dot path. Now why did I do this thing? Why can't I just type path? Why I have to specify the full namespace? The reason is, if you type the path, I will type it elsewhere. I have to tell you what is going to happen. If you just type the path, there is a conflict, and you notice that path is ambiguous because there are two locations where the same class name is there. One is there inside system dot. One is there inside the system dot windows dot shape dot path. Other one is io dot path. So it is getting confused as to which class you are referring to. So when there is an ambiguity, you have no choice than using the full namespace. So I have to tell it that it is inside this system.io.path. This is the class I am referring to. This class has a method called as combine that is used to combine the paths. So I'm going to use the combine. So what is that I'm combining? I'm combining this my document path, whichever path I have. So I'm combining this my document path along with my file name. So then I'm going to say my employees. This is my file name that I'm going to create. .xml. So what is that I'm saying here is combine my document with the my employees.xml and then create the full path. So combine it and then create the path. So in other words, I'm saying that go to my document. Inside this my document, create a file called as myemployee.xml. So this is what I'm specifying here. So I got the path now. Once I have the path, let's go back to the stream. And the stream required me to specify the path, and I got the path for my file. So I'm going to specify the path. The next one, it's going to say the file access, but I'm not interested in this overload. I'll go to the second one, I think third one, which says the file mode, which is easier to use. So I'm going to say the file mode is create. You are C programming language, you are already familiar with the file mode in which you can create a file. So I'm just saying create a file. You know, create, open, I think you are already familiar with this thing, file modes. Create, append, open from your C programming language. It's the same thing. The things are not changed over here. So what I created now is I have created a file string that is pointing to my documents and my XML file, and I'm opening it in the create mode. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say fs. This is my file string into the serializer, and then if everything is over, I'm going to just say, you can say fs.close if at all, you know very well, once you start a stream, you're supposed to close that stream. And then I'm going to give a message to the user, message box.show. Say, let's say employee details saved. I'm going to just make it as simple. That's all. So that the user knows that okay, the things are saved. So once all those things are done, just give it a try and let's see whether you are able to save this file in the My document. So I have the employee ID 123. Sorry, I think I have not added anything here. Let me add this part. I have not added anything. So let's go back. We will not be able to add anything because I have not completed the combo box. So let's go and let's complete that combo box. The combo box both the combo box are empty. We don't have anything in the combo box. So let's go to this combo box and then let's try to add an item into this combo box. So how do I add an item to the combo box? Select this combo box, go to the properties. Combo box contains items, which is a collection. So combo box can contain items. I'm going to click on this items, which is a collection. And then I'm going to add a new item. And I'm going to say accounts department. So I'm going to type accounts here, click OK. So it has added into the collection. Now this is a very difficult way of doing it. Let's look at the XAML to find out how easy it is to directly do it with the XAML. So I will go here to the XAML, and if you look at the XAML here, it's simple as just typing combo box. Inside the combo box, just writing combo box item is combo box item, content is accounts. I'm going to just copy it. This is much easier to do it rather than going there, clicking something, adding, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to just copy this, Control C, and paste it in the next line. And I'm going to say human resource. And paste it again. And say sales. And paste again. And then say IT. Some so within the combo box, you will have to do this. Now for the next combo box, I'm not going to repeat the same thing because I know how to put the items into the combo box. So I will go to the end of the next combo box. And you notice that the combo box is closed here. So I'm going to delete this tag for the combo box, the second combo box. And then so I'll delete the closing tag and then close it like this. When you close it, when you delete this one and just close it like an ordinary tag, it's going to split up into two pieces. I'm going to press enter. So I have combo box being opened up, second one. I'm going to paste it again, it's the same thing. And I'm going to say clerk. Accountant. Manager. System admin. Okay, I think that's enough. You can have other things also. So I have few items being added. So it's nothing much over here. So I'm just adding few content into the two combo boxes so that I can make a selection. Once these things are done, you can run the application and then you can save this application. You can see whether the items are getting saved. So let's give it a try and let's see whether the things are. So now I have the employee ID, employee name, department, designation, date, once I click on add, if everything goes fine, it has to say, but everything will not go fine. Okay. It has to happen. Purposely I did that thing. There is a problem. And what is the problem? The problem is with the visibility of the employee class. So if you notice over here, you get a exception at that particular one location. And the exception simply says, what is the problem with it? So this is the error you are getting it if you are fortunate enough. And it just says that the employee itself is not accessible to me. So it says I cannot access the employee because it's not visible to me. What is the problem? The problem is with the definition of the class. So if you look at this class over here, you will notice that by default it is not visible outside the this one. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to make it public. So I'll go to this employee class and I'm going to make it as public so that this employee class is visible to the rest of the world. So the class is not visible. That's why the serializer says that I can't access that class because it's not visible to me. Okay, so I just make it as public and now everything should go fine without any problem. So once you have your class made public, you must be able to save. If there is no other error, you must be able to save the content. So you must get a message, employee details saved. If you go to the My Documents, you must find a file called myemployee.xml. You must be able to find myemployees.xml. Right click on it and let me try to open it. With WordPad. I'm not using the notepad because I wanted to show it in the formatted way. Word or WordPad, it's up to you. So I'm going to just open it with the WordPad. And you notice that this is what it has done. You notice that it has serialized your employee class, employee with the namespace, forget the namespace, employee ID, employee name, designation, and everything. So it has completely serialized your employee object into a file. So it's as easy. So it's a very easy way of serializing the content into the. is a simple one. Now the thing is, there is no point in serializing one object into the file like this. So can we think of serializing a collection of objects, like a set of employees in one shot into the file? So let's do that thing. So I'm going to create a list of employees, and then I'm going to serialize that full list into the file. So how do I create that thing? So initially I'm going to allow the user to add into the list, and finally I'm going to save the entire list into the disk. So let me go to the XML here, that is to my file here, and I'm going to get a button. So I'm going to get one more button here. I don't have space there, so I'm just putting one more button. So I'm going to get a button called as save. That will save the full list. So let me go here and change the property. So I just dragged a button. I dragged a button, and I'm going to change the name of this button as save button, and I'm going to change the content of it as save. So save button is added, one extra button. So when I click on that save button, I am supposed to save the file. What about the previous one? So this is the save button. When I click on this save button, I'm supposed to save it into a file. What is this add then? Add will add an employee to the list. So we first create a list of employees, and then finally we save that list into the disk. So let me double click on this save button here to get the event handler for this new button. So I'm going to just double click on this save button. Once I double click on this save button, I get a event handler. Now I want a list of employees. So how do I create a list of employees? I don't want an array of employees, I want a list of employees. So I will go right at the top of the class. So I'm going to create a global or a field for this class. So right at the class declaration, right at the top, I'm going to say I want a list, and this list is non-generic list. This is a list of object. The second one is a generic list. So I want a list of employees. So this means to say that I don't want a list of cars, list of bikes, or list of country or anything. I want a list of employees, specific list, not list of anything. I'm going to call this as employees. And then and there I'm going to create a instantiated is equal to new employee list. And you notice that how you are writing it. It just means to say that it's a list of employees. It's not a list of objects. So if you try to add an object, or if you try to add a computer, if you try to add a car into this list, the compiler will throw an error saying that you can add only employees into this list. You can't add other items into the list. If you don't do that thing, it will allow you to remove this part. It will allow you to add anything into this list. So I'm exclusively warning the compiler that do not accept a non-employee object into this. So I create a employee object. Now what is that I am supposed to do? There are two buttons are there. When I click on this add button, I am supposed to add whatever that is typed over here into the list. And when I click on save, I am supposed to save the list into the disk. So let's go to this add method here. This add method is almost complete. So I get the employee, I create the employee. This is what you have done. You created this employee. and then you have to add it to the employee list. So where is this employee list? I call the name for this is employees dot add them. As simple as that. So what I am doing here is I create this employee and then add that employee to the list. I am going to give a message box and tell the user that message box dot show, and I'm going to say, I make it simple, one record added. It may not be proper, but I'll keep it simple so that the user knows that something happened. What about the remaining part? Remaining part is not to be executed now. Remaining part has to be executed when I click on the save button. So when I click on the save button, I am supposed to save that list into the disk. So how do I do that thing? So I will go here. I'll take the remaining part. So whatever that is remaining after this, I'll take this remaining part. After this add record, I'm going to take this whole thing. Control X to cut it. So I'll take this thing, whatever I typed previously. I'll go to this save button and I'm going to save it. So the saving part is done at the other method. So in the first method, you are just adding an employee. In the second method, you are trying to save it. Now the question is, I am not going to serialize the employee. So I have just copied the remaining part into this save button click event. But the problem here is, it's going to serialize the employee, one object. I don't want it to serialize one object. So I'm going to say XML serializer, X serializer is equal to new XML serializer, type of not employees, type of, I do not want the employees to be serialized. I want the list of employees to be serialized. So how do I do that thing? I'm going to say it is the list of employees that need to be serialized. So it is type of list of employees that need to be serialized. That's the first part. The next part remains same. You create a path, you create a string. The last part over here is, because I said it is a list of employees, you're going to get an error here saying that this is not a list, it's just a simple employee. I'm going to take this and I'm going to say this is list is, I have given a name as employees. So this is the employees. Employees is the list of employees. So I'm saying just save the list of employees into the this. So I first create a list of employees, type of list of employees, and then I also have the list here that is employees, and we'll just save it into the disk. So let's run it again and let's try to add 3 or 4 records and then stream it into the disk in one shot. So this time I'm going to run it. I create 3 employees, let's say with few details. I add 1 record, it's added. I'm going to make some changes. I add 3 records. So 3 records are added, and then I finally say save this record. I go to the same place where I have this employees. I'm going to just open it with the Word file. And you notice that I have 3 employees, 1 employee, the second employee and the third employee. So it's as simple, very straightforward. If you look at the XAML here, you notice that in your XAML you have the tab item called as employee, and there is a grid here. And if you close this grid, you find one more tab item called as list of employees. So this whole thing is there inside a grid, and you notice that there is also a grid in the second one, but this grid is self-closed. So I'm going to open up this grid from the list of employees from the second part. I'm going to go here and delete this grid closing bracket of that grid, and then I close it manually. So when I do it, the grid will open up. So I get grid and slash grid. So you notice that in the previous case, everything is there inside grid and slash grid. So whole thing is there in the previous employee list. The whole thing is there between grid and slash grid. So whatever that is there between the grid and slash grid of the new employees, I'm going to copy it. Control C to copy that whole thing between grid and slash grid. Whatever that is there, just copy that whole thing. Control C it, and then go to the next place, that is list of employees, and Control V. You get an error message because of the, you get an error, you will not be able to see anything. But what you have done here is you have just placed the whole thing between the grid and slash grid into the next tab, in the tab 2. Now what is this problem? This problem is with the ID. So let's look at the problem here. You notice that there is this name which is creating problems. So there is this text block 2 name is there, that is creating a problem, because the text block 2 is already used in the previous tab. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just make it as LST text block 2. Again, whatever the previous name is there, I'm going to just concatenate it with the LST. So LST for all the names. As I put the LST, you notice that the things are disappearing. So I just keep on adding LST, 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 and so on for everything. It's all gone, and you have to do it for everything. It's not enough if you do it for 2 of them. But there are 2 buttons where there. Actually, I don't need those 2 buttons. In this case, I'm going to just make it first, then get rid of that button. So I'm going to just change the name LST everywhere. The name, I just add LST. I'm just changing the name. I'm just adding list LST in front of it to say that they are not the same name as the previous one. Now, if you look at the design view, and if you go to the list of employees, you notice that the same thing is there. The same content as is copied to the next place, and you don't have to repeat it again. So the same things are there. But in the list, I don't want this save button. So I'm not really interested in this save and add buttons in the list, not in the add new employees. In the list, I don't want these 2 buttons. So I'm going to just click on it and delete it. They are not required. So from the list, I'm removing these 2 buttons. So if you now run it, just to see how it appears, you will notice that the things are same. It appears same, but those two buttons are being pulled up. Instead of that, I need two navigation buttons. So let me add two buttons, two different buttons here. So let me add the first button, and that is, let me go here, add a button. I'm doing it in the list now. The first part is over. I'm doing everything in the list. I add a button, and I'm going to change the name of this button as open button. So open button, and I gave the content as open. So this is open button. I'm just adding a new button called as open. The why I added that open button is I have to open that file which is already saved. So I just created an open button. And what is that I am supposed to do? When I click on this open button, I am supposed to open the previously saved file and show its content. So this is listing. So let's go and double click on this open button. So I'm in the list employee, not in the first one. First part is over. So let's go to the open button and just double click on it to go for handling the event handler. And what is that I'm supposed to do? Go to the same location from where you have saved the file, open it up. I'm not going to type the whole thing. The location is already known here. The location is known here. So this is the path. This is the stream. I need the path and the stream. So I'm going to take the path and stream from the previous one. Control C it, and I'm going to just paste it here. I need the path and I need the stream. But there is one minor change in the stream that you need to do. And what is that minor change? The mode in which you are trying to open this stream when you are opening is not create. The mode is, you are familiar. Okay. So I'm only making changes in the mode. The mode in which the file has to be opened is in the open mode. Otherwise, it will create a new file altogether. So I don't want it to create a new file. I want it to open the file. And once the file is opened, what is that you are supposed to do it? Deserialize it back. How do I deserialize it back? I need a serializer object. How do I create a serializer object? You can copy paste it in the previous case, but I'm going to just type it. The name of this one is XML serializer. You can copy paste it in the, but still let me just type it. XML serializer is equal to new XML serializer. And what is that I am supposed to do? I am supposed to say that how do you, what is the file type? So this is the list of employees. So I'm going to say this is list of employees, the same thing that we done in the previous case. So list of, not this list, it's the type of list of employees. Type of list of employees. It's the same thing. This line is there in the previous case also. You create the list of employees. And once you create the list of employees, what is that you are supposed to do? Xserialize dot deserialize. That's simple as that. Deserializer will only ask the stream. I already have a stream fs. What this is going to do, when you call it, it's going to return the list. So I'm going to just assign it to employees. This is not going to work. Employees, I think I wrote it as employees. So this is not going to work. The reason is very obvious. You need a typecast. Okay, it's going to say, are you missing the typecast? So I'm going to say typecast the list like a list of employees. How do I do it? So typecast it like a list of employee. So I'm typecasting it like a list of employees. So deserialize it, typecast it like a employees, and put it into the string. I'm going to say fs.close to close the string. So stream is closed. It's all done. You open the stream and you just close the stream. So it's simple as that. You create a stream in the open mode. You create a serializer, ask it to be serializer. And that's the end of it. You got the entire employee list back, but the thing is, what you do after doing this? After doing this, you need to allow the user to go through the list. So in order to go from one record to the other record, you need to know what is the current position. So let me create a global variable called as the current position. You know very well when you want to go from one record to the other record, you must know what is the current position so that you can go either forward or backward. So let me go over here and let me create a global variable right at the top. When I created this list of employees, I'm going to create an integer variable here. I'm going to say int current position. So int current position. So this is, again, if you want, you can initialize it with 0, but by default, it's going to get initialized as 0. So this is the current position. I need it as a global because I will be moving forward and backward. So let's go and let's create the remaining part. Let me come back to the same place. So I have the current position. So how do I set the current position? This is just a precautional method. So I'm going to say if employees, this is the list, and I'm going to count how many records are there inside it. If the count of record is greater than 0, that means if there is any record, then I'm going to set the current position as 0. Then I got the current position. I have to show them in the, once I get the one, I'm supposed to show that value here in this location. I have to show the current values, the values within the current record at that location. So how am I going to do that thing? So I have the current location. I'm going to write a function here. So I have not just created the function. So I assume that there is a function called as display record that will take the current position and it's going to display the record. This function is not yet created. So I just say that then I'm going to call a method called as display record. I have not just created it. So that will fill the remaining part. So when you do that thing, the Visual Studio will complain and say that this method is not there. I use the control dot to get some help, and the Visual Studio will say that I can create a method for you because it's not there. So I'm going to say, okay, create the stuff for it. So double click on it. It just created this stuff for it, saying that, so just go here, control dot, and say create a stuff for it, and it has created the method for me. Now, because it is not yet, no implementation is there, if you call that, you will end up in the exception. So I don't want to throw an exception there within that method. Instead, I want to just show the values. So what is that I'm going to do? I will go to the employee ID. So employee ID text box dot text, and I'm going to show the employees is my list, employees of current position. So from the current position, I get the employee ID. If you try to do it, it's not going to work because employee ID is a integer. So I'm going to say convert it into string. So go. This is a list. From the list, go to the current position and then get it. So it is as simple as writing. Suppose if you had a array, say ARR of I, this is what you are writing. So it's simple as that. Employees of current position. If the current position is 0, from the current position, get the employee ID. So it is same as ARR of, if it is an array, say if it's an array, so it is ARR of I. It's the same thing. The same thing I'm supposed to do it. I'll just copy this part because I don't want to type it again and again. So I'll just copy this part. Control C. And next one is the employee name. Text box dot text equal to employee at the current position and e-name. Get the e-name. The next one is the department combo box. So department combo box dot text is same thing, employees dot department. The next one is department designation combo box dot text so I got the designation. Last one is the date and time. So date of join, date picker, so what you have, dot text is there. So I think selected set date, set value. It's not really recorded. Date and time dot text. It's not a good idea to. I think what else is there in that? I have this value. Let's see what is the selected date. Okay, select date. Selected date. You may end up in the trouble. It's taking a long time. So if everything goes fine, we must be able to read one record and show. This is a bit doubtful, but it's. I think all these names as LST, but you notice that it is coming here. It is coming on the other side, but I gave all the names as LST here. So it's not text box, combo box, and other things. It is the LST box that we talk about it in the other class.